It has been 2 years since NASA's James Webb Telescope gave us a stunning first look at the depths of our universe. When we imagine life on other planets, we have to imagine the environment on those planets. This is the first time we get to orbit Mercury. The James Webb Telescope just revealed the terrible secret that NASA kept hidden on Mercury, and it's terrible. This tiny planet is hiding some very scary things from us. It is right next to the very hot Sunday. Imagine finding sparkling treasures on a planet that no one thought would have any. Also, the core of Mercury is a huge mystery. Many scientists have gotten strange signals from it that come from nowhere else in our solar system. What scary things does Mercury might be keeping from us? Let's look into the strange facts that Mercury is trying to hide. Some cool things are being kept secret by Mercury, the small planet close to the Sun. For a long time, we didn't know much about it, even though it was huge and very hot. But some new space trips have shown us things we didn't expect. Among other things, experts think they may have found diamonds on this hot planet. That's not all, though. It's bigger and weirder inside than we thought it would be. Scientists have found that a thick layer of diamonds may exist hundreds of miles beneath Mercury's surface. What makes it different from the worlds nearby? What secrets does it hide below the surface? The newest findings are about to be made public, but no one thought the news would get out so quickly. Astronomers and people who love space have always been interested in the tiniest planet in our solar system. Its landscape was a secret for a long time because no one could see it. We didn't start to figure out what space was all about until we got better at it. Mariner 10 was the first spaceship to visit, and it gave us our first good look at this small planet. It got really close and took pictures of a surface with craters and strange lines that looked a bit like the moon. The mission showed a rough surface with many craters, a magnetic field that was surprisingly strong, and a core that was bigger than scientists had thought. These findings challenged what they thought they knew about the structure of the planet. The Messenger spaceship spent a long time orbiting it. Unlike its predecessor, Mariner 10, which only went there for a short time, this made it possible for a more thorough study of the world to be done. Messenger took an amazing 200,000 pictures during its trip, showing parts of the world that had been hidden from humans until then. One of the many discoveries that stood out was the fact that the darker side had extremely high levels of calcium and magnesium. This find made people wonder about the natural processes that might have caused such an oddity. It was also noticed that Mercury had an incredibly strong magnetic field, which was strongest in its northern areas. This is something that hasn't been seen on any other planet in our solar system. These different finds not only helped us learn more, but also called into question what we thought we knew about planetary science. Scientists had to rethink what they thought they knew about how Mercury is made and how it came to be. Like Earth, most planets have magnetic fields that are made when molten iron moves around in their cores. But Mercury's magnetic properties are different because of the way its insides are structured. But Mercury isn't just holes and a weird magnetic field. The conditions on the top are very bad. It can get as hot as 86 degrees during the day, which is hot enough to melt lead. However, temperatures drop very quickly at night, making a big difference from how hot it is during the day. Together with the other new information, the big changes in temperature show that Mercury is not a simple planet. We are still amazed by it and study it because it makes us question what we think we know about worlds. Mercury has a very thin atmosphere that doesn't do much to keep the temperature stable or hold on to heat. This means that it can get as cold as 292 degrees Fahrenheit here. Even with these harsh conditions, new study has found some interesting things about the surface of Mercury. In 2012, data from the Messenger spacecraft showed that the world may not be as geologically quiet as we thought. This was because the data showed signs of ancient volcanic activity. Scientists found proof of huge volcanic eruptions, which means Mercury has been more busy than we thought. Then, in 2020, scientists found something else that surprised them: patches of water ice in holes at the poles. It's amazing that these holes were found on a planet so close to the Sun because they are in places that never get direct sunlight. This makes them cold enough to keep ice frozen. This has made people wonder if there is life in these icy areas, especially small organisms that can live in harsh conditions. It's time to learn about a world that has its own rules, starting with its own day and year. A day is more than a year. It is called Bepi and was sent to Mercury by the European Space Agency and the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency in 2018. It is scheduled to reach Mercury in 2025 with the goal of learning more about the planet's surface, its chemicals, and its geological past. Even more shocks are in store for it, like the fact that its magnetic field is surprisingly strong and that water ice was found. Another strange fact is that Mercury's year is shorter than its day, even though it is very close to the Sun. What? How is that possible? Usually, we think of planets going around the Sun once a year and spinning around once a day. Mercury is not like that, though. The Earth's year is much shorter than ours because it only takes 88 days to go around the Sun once. Earth, on the other hand, spins once around its axis every 176 days. On Mercury, a day lasts twice as long as a year. That's not even the weirdest part. There would be some very strange things to see on Mercury. The Sun would come up, get bigger, and then it would look like it stopped moving. It would even start to move backward for a while before it finally kept going across the sky. Mercury is moving in a strange way because its slow spin can't keep up with how fast it goes around the Sun. Why does it spin so slowly? It's because of tidal locking, which has been going on for billions of years because of the Sun's strong pull. But while the Moon is fully locked with Earth, Mercury's orbit is only partly in sync with its own. Its days are so much longer than its years because of this strange spin pattern. Mercury is stuck in a special place because of the way it rotates, so one side is always facing the Sun. Every time it goes around the Sun twice, it spins 3 times. This strange pattern, called a 3:2 spin-orbit resonance, makes the surface of the object very harsh. Because of this pattern, one side is always facing the Sun and gets very hot, while the other side is always in the dark and gets very cold. Some of the biggest changes in temperature in our whole solar system happen because of this. Getting to know the hidden craters. Mercury doesn't have much of an atmosphere. A lot of people call it an exosphere because it's so thin. Gases are always making their way out into space from this exosphere. It's things like the solar wind, radioactive chemicals breaking down, and tiny meteorites hitting the surface that take their place. Some surprising new facts about the exosphere have been found. For instance, in 2020, data from the Messenger spacecraft showed that there was a lot of water vapor in the air, which was not predicted. Scientists believe that this water mist is made when hydrogen from the solar wind mixes with oxygen found in the rocks on the surface. Mercury's magnetic field is changed in strange ways by its slow spin and fast rotation. It has a world magnetic field even though it is small and spins slowly. This field is thought to come from a special process in its liquid metal core. The odd orbit and rotation form this process. The magnetic field is still very important, even though it is not as strong as Earth's. Keeps the world safe from the strong solar wind. The solar wind would quickly remove what little oxygen there is if this magnetic shield wasn't there. It's also interesting to see how Mercury spins and moves around the Sun. Some spots on the surface, called hot poles, seem to make the Sun stop in the sky at certain times, making those places very hot. Some places near the poles, on the other hand, are always dark and never see the Sun. Scientists are amazed that they have found water ice in these dark places. The ice stays frozen because these holes are out of the Sun's reach, which keeps them very cold, even though the rest of the area is very hot. When scientists found this strange thing, it made them think that these cold, dark places might hold other things, maybe even organic compounds. How hard it is to explore Mercury. It's not easy to send spaceships to Mercury because it moves so quickly around the Sun. These plans need to be carefully thought out. Many times, spacecraft have to go by Venus and Mercury more than once to slow down enough to enter orbit. Because Mercury moves so quickly through space, it needs to be able to make these tricky turns using the gravity of other planets to slowly change its speed and direction. The Bepi journey is on its way to Mercury right now. It was launched in 2018 and will begin circling Mercury in 2025 after making 9 passes around other planets. When Bepi gets to Mercury, it will have to deal with the strange day-night schedule. The spaceship has to keep an eye on how hot it gets from the Sun and make sure that all of its systems stay on during the long cold nights. Finding this balance is very important for the mission, especially since Mercury's unique spin and path around the Sun make conditions very difficult. Recently, new computer models have given us a better idea of how fast Mercury is moving. These models show that it may have spun much faster in the past, but its spin slowed down because of the sun's gravity and impacts from asteroids and comets. These facts help us learn about Mercury's past and hint at how other worlds in our solar system changed over time. But wait, there's more. As experts learn more about Mercury, they come up with new questions. They want to know how the strange path affects its surface and how its core stays partly molten despite the long cold nights. These questions show us how much we still don't know about the sun and how it works. Mercury's unique features make us think about what we think we know about how planets form and grow, which leads us to test our science theories and come up with new ideas. And there might be more wonders hidden below the surface of its craters. Mercury is the tiniest planet in our solar system, but it packs a lot of interesting features into its small size. Scientists are always surprised by its unique qualities and new findings. One of the most interesting things about Mercury is that its heart is much bigger than people thought. A study led by planetary scientist Dr. Nancy Chabot at the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory found that the core makes up about 85% of the whole planet. The Earth's core is only about 15% of the volume of the Earth, so this is a lot bigger. Why does it have such a huge core, though? One idea is that it may have been a much bigger planet in the past, but a big crash early in the history of the solar system may have destroyed most of its upper layers. The University of Arizona's Dr. Erica Sog calls this idea the hit-and-run scenario. It says that a big object may have crashed into it, removing a lot of its mantle and crust and leaving behind the iron-rich core we see today. But this wasn't the only weird thing they found. It also has a magnetic field that is very strong. Mars and Venus don't have world magnetic fields, but Mercury does. It's about 1% as strong as Earth's. This magnetic field makes the already interesting nature of the small planet even more complicated. Now we find out some shocking things about its surface and magnetic field. What we don't know about Mercury's magnetic field. The Messenger project from NASA found something surprising. Mercury has the same strong magnetic field as Earth. They didn't expect this because the planet is small and spins slowly, and they didn't think it could keep a magnetic field going. A scientist from the University of British Columbia named Dr. Catherine Johnson and her team discovered that Mercury's magnetic field is not in the middle of the planet. It has moved about 20% of the planet's radius instead. They think this might be because the rock isn't all the same thickness, which changes the way heat moves under the Earth. In 2020, sulfur, potassium, and sodium were found on the surface of Mercury. Most of the time, these elements would burn off quickly in hot places like the sun. It was a big surprise to find them. It was suggested by Dr. Patrick Peplowski of the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory that these elements may have been brought to Mercury by comets or asteroids hitting it after it was formed. This wasn't the most shocking thing that was found, though. Water ice was also found in holes close to Mercury's poles. Since these holes are always in the shade, they never get warm from the sun. The ice can stay frozen because of this. It's exciting to find ice on a planet so close to the sun, and Dr. Nancy Chabot was part of the team that did it. There's more. There were also hints of organic substances found in these craters. These dark spots could be made up of complicated carbon molecules, the kind that might have helped make life possible on Earth. This means that Mercury might have information about how life began in our solar system, even though it is in a harsh setting. But that wasn't the last surprise. It looks like Mercury is geologically active, which is not what scientists thought would happen. The Messenger project found signs that volcanoes had been active recently. Dr. David Roth from the Open University in the UK saw what looked like volcanic vents on the surface as small bright spots. This shows that the planet is still changing. Its chaotic terrain is a big area about the size of Texas, with a lot of different hills and valleys. It is close to the South Pole. Scientists, according to Dr. Thomas Waters from the Smithsonian Institution, believe that this may have been caused by strong earthquakes caused by the sun's gravity as Mercury's orbit changed. There are still a lot of questions about this small planet that is so close to the sun. What else could we find? Some surprising new information about what's below the surface has come to light in recent studies, with help from data from NASA's Messenger mission. Dr. Amir Khan from the University of Zurich has looked more closely at its deeper layers. His team of researchers found that Mercury has a solid center inside a liquid shell, just like Earth does. But compared to Earth, its solid core makes up a much bigger part of its total size. This may help explain some of its strange magnetic properties. These new findings make us question what we thought we knew about how planets are made and how they change over time. There's still a lot we don't know about our own solar system. While we wait for new space flights to give us more information, we can only guess what other strange things might be hidden below its cratered surface. Mercury is still interesting on the inside as well as on the outside, as shown by new missions. One important finding is about how the planet's core is built. Earth has a solid core inside a liquid shell. Mercury, on the other hand, has a solid core inside a mostly liquid shell. The MESSENGER mission saw small changes in the structure's gravity field, which proved that it was one of a kind. As we go deeper, we look at this small but interesting planet's strange structure and pass deep below the surface. A dark journey. This wasn't the most shocking part, though. The solid part of Mercury's core is thought to be about 1,600 kilometers across, which is about half of the whole core's size. This is a lot bigger than Earth's solid core, which only takes up about 20% of the core's volume. How strong its magnetic field is depends on the size and shape of its core. For such a small planet, this field is incredibly strong, even though it's not as strong as Earth's. You can also learn more about how it's put together. Scientists think Mercury's core is only 260 kilometers thick, which is a lot less than they first thought. Earth's core is about 1,800 miles thick, to give you an idea. This big difference changes how the surface of Mercury acts and how the planet deals with heat. An exciting find was made about its secret layers. In 2012, the MESSENGER spacecraft found evidence of volcanic activity from the past in the form of shallow pits called hollows. These hollows were likely formed when certain substances disappeared from the crust of the planet, which means that Mercury may have had more of these volatile materials in the past than scientists first thought. In 2020, experts looking at MESSENGER's data found something else that surprised them. Under the surface, they found signs of a huge old pool of magma. This magma sea from a long time ago may have had a big impact on the land's shape and structure. This old magma sea might also help explain some of its strange surface features, like the big smooth areas that cover a lot of its northern part. These areas, called the northern volcanic plains, are thought to have been formed by huge lava flows that happened early in Mercury's past. That wasn't the most shocking thing they found, though. Scientists found another secret in MESSENGER's data in 2022: signs of nitrogen below the surface. This finding gave us a hint that the nitrogen might be a piece of an old atmosphere that was pushed underground by the sun's strong heat. This secret nitrogen makes us think about Mercury's history in interesting ways. Did it used to have a thicker atmosphere? What does that tell us about its early temperature and the chance that it could have been habitable at some point? The finding of water ice in craters at Mercury's poles is another interesting mystery about the planet's hidden layers. Even though they are very close to the sun, these areas have been found to be cold enough to keep ice frozen. This ice is trapped in craters that are never directly hit by sunlight. It's amazing that ice is found on a planet so close to the sun, but what's even more interesting is how it could have arrived there. Some researchers believe it may have been deposited by comets or asteroids over time. This ice is not the only thing making people think twice. There are even hints of organic compounds in these icy spots. Scientists are still not sure what this could mean. Could Mercury have supported life in the past? Could it still have the potential for life today?